So welcome back to the shop, friends. I have a very exciting video for you today that you're not going to want to miss, because if you don't watch this video, you'll never find out what is inside this little blue box.
Just one look, and I felt so hot. In love with you.
So friends, you're in for a treat today. This is something I never thought that I would see. I never thought that I would see in person. I mean, I've of course seen them on the websites and for sale, but it was just always a little bit out of my reach. And I am so thrilled to... Actually, I knew what it was. So just quickly, before we open this up, so this was sent, this tool set was sent from my friend Ken, who, as you remember, he's a very generous man. He sends things all the time. And he sends really obscure tools trying to stump me, and he puts the answer in an envelope here. But I did take a peek at this, and I actually knew what this one was. So without further ado, are you ready to see? Look at that. Can we focus there? Give me a focus on there. How many of you know what that is? That is the very, very rare and hard to find, what was it, the Stanley? Stanley, I forget the number, 62, 63? I wrote it down here. 96. The Stanley 96. You thought that number one plane that I had was small. Let me bring that out here for you, that we restored their last year. You know, that's a pretty small plane right there, right? But how about this one? That's taking small to a whole new level. So how many of you guys actually know what this is? Let me bring you in a little bit closer here. All right, here we go. What better backdrop could we have than an original Stanley yellow box, or Stanley yellow color? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So this is a Stanley number 96 chisel plane. This is very, very old. I did a little research on this before the video, and from what I gathered, this was produced, it was originally introduced to Stanley in 1888 and was produced up to 1922, and that's when it went out of production. Now the earlier ones will have, I think that, if memory serves, had a patent number on it, and the later ones did not. So oh, there it is. It is. This is one of the old ones. So when I looked at this in my office where the light wasn't very good, I was assuming this was on the tail end, the 1900s or so. But being this has a patent number on it, if I could be wrong, but I believe this must be one of the very first ones, the original ones, built in the 1800s. Can you believe that? That's something else to have something like this that's still functional in such wonderful condition. Look at the nickel on it. That's one thing that makes the old Stanley tools so beautiful and so interesting to me, is that nickel finish. I prefer that nickel finish over chrome any day. It has a richness to it that is it's just exquisite, just beautiful. No rust on it, no marks, damage from screws on there. There's a little bit of the nickel you can see coming off there on the tip, but this is quite something, isn't it? That is absolutely beautiful. But it doesn't end with this, because this is only half of the combo here. This is to be complete, you would have to have one more piece, and believe it or not, we've got it. And it looks to me, from the pictures that I could tell, it might even be the original one. And this is the 1/4-inch chisel or gouge. Look at that. That is old. Look at the facets right there, and you know, look, it has that appearance of being handmade. Who knows? Brass ferrule and a hardwood handle still has the original varnish on it. Is that not gorgeous, or what? How about that, to have the original set together? You wonder, makes you just wonder how it came. How did it get here? How many hands has it passed through, and how fortunate it was to have people that recognized its value, intrinsic value, and looked after it and took care of it. Many, many, many people. Isn't that something? So before I can show you what it's for, we need to sharpen it, because this is in bad shape. And I think this might just be the perfect job for the Russian knife sharpener. The nature of the task that this chisel needs to do, or this combination, this chisel plane, is very critical, and the angle, from what I've read, is is very important. Now this is going to be, we're going to need to sharpen this at a very different angle than we would a traditional chisel that's going to be between 25 and 30 degrees. This needs to be 15 degrees. You'll find out here why in a minute. So let's put this up, put the jig together here, and then we'll see if we can't get that angle perfect on there. So this is certainly a little unorthodox, but I'm not set up to file or to sharpen the chisel at 15 degrees. All my jigs and everything are for more the traditional 13 or 30 to 25. So this may or may not work, but I think that it will. So even though it's held at an angle, we should be able to get that, because I want to get that exact 15 degrees, and I don't know of another way to do it quickly and easily. So this is what I've come up with. So let's set our angles, and then see if we can put a nice edge on this. The angle cube, it's the best, absolutely the best thing ever. Okay, so we'll put that on there, and so we'll zero out the base right here, and so we'll calibrate, zero that out. Now we can dial in our 15. I've got the coarse stone installed there, and so we'll sit right there where the stone is going to cross the chisel. And what we're looking for is, of course, our 15 degrees according to what I read. So we'll dial that down. That's a really shallow, oops, that's the lock over there, really shallow depth there. So there's a gross adjustment and then there's a fine adjustment. So I'll run the gross one down till I'm close. Then I can lock that off. Then we can use our fine. We're almost there. Now would be a good time to click the thumbs up while you're waiting for me to set this up here. I really appreciate that. Helps the channel. That's it. Lock it down. I think we're ready. I'm curious to find out what the angle is now, what it came with. We'll see here. So I've got the coarse stone on here. A little bit cramped here with the tripod in the way, but I guess it's easier to have a tripod in my way in this little shop than have 1 million of you all in here. That would be very crowded. So I've got the 15 degrees established there. Actually, it was pretty close. I didn't have to take too much off of there, but that's just redetermine that angle. Now we'll take it over to the diamond stones and we'll finish this off by hand now that we've got this established. And I don't mind sharpening these by hand, but I kind of needed to get a baseline there first that we could work off of. When you're sharpening these chisels like this, always the first thing you want to do is, after you've established that angle, is to flatten that back. That's the most important. You only have to do that once, and you'll know it's flat when it has a nice polish like that on it, and it's even all the way across. So I just went coarse, fine, and super fine on there. So on the coarse one, so now that we've got the angle determined, we can kind of tip it up there and feel it, and start the polish. Nothing finishes off metal like leather. This is just some rawhide, some polishing compound on there, a very super fine abrasive compound, and then we can just go backwards. Angle's not important, just go more than your 15. I press as hard as I can. There you should be able to see that polish on there. See how it's a mirror-like finish on the tip of that from that leather strop. Isn't that beautiful? That is really sharp. That's a 1/4 inch chisel. Here's the back side, you can see flat. Now we're ready to assemble everything here. So I haven't done this before. So we're learning together. I'm just kind of going off of what seems to be reasonable. So this is going to be a guide. We don't want to damage our edge. We put all that time into it. This is going to be a guide for our chisel, and it's going to turn it into just like a little mini plane right there for a very specific task. Now we'll probably have to go back and readjust this a time or two to get it right. I can feel it's grabbing. I might have it a little bit deep there. Let me back that up a little, just a tiny, tiny bit. If we put it on the wood, we'll be able to feel. Yeah, okay. Let's start with that, and I'll show you what it's for. So what this little Stanley 96 is for a technique that I've never done before, but it's called blind nailing, or putting in a blind nail. So what I have here is I've got a piece of CVG fur, a tread. So let's say, for example, that you had a squeaky tread on some stairs that was maybe very old or super high-end work that you couldn't get to it. You didn't want to drive a nail through the top of it and ruin the aesthetic. So from what I understand, there was a technique that master carpenters would use called blind nailing, and we're going to try that right now. I'll show you the process. And so if the depth was set right, and I don't know if it is, but we'll try. But you would take this little tool here, and you would push it, putting weight down, and you would plane up a little piece of wood, just like that. You see that there? And very, very carefully, you would pull the tool out, and now this gives you kind of a little recess in there, and what you would do is you would drive a tiny nail or a screw, I guess whatever you could get, into here, into this area, and secure something, or maybe they used this, I don't know, maybe they used it in fine cabinetry where they needed to top nail something and they wanted to hide everything, and they would drive the nail down there and then countersink it, and then very carefully using a fish glue, something to do with, maybe it was obviously made out of fish, and they would use fish glue because it was super tacky, and as soon as it made contact, you would roll that back down there and you would hide that. Now we can try it with a little bit of super glue, just for effect. I don't have a tiny little nail right here, but I think you get the idea. But I think the idea was we'll just try it here. If we put a dollop of, is that going to work? Totally the wrong type of glue here, but this is just for demonstration. Oh, I got way too much on there. So this would be very finicky, fussy work. So you would probably take that fish glue and coat that whole area. And also, I think another thing with fish glue is it's easy to clean up. This would not at all be the right thing to use. It's just a test right there. And then you could take something, maybe your finger or square, and you could, after that nail was installed, you could roll that down there like that. See, that's why the tacky glue would be so important, where the super glue wouldn't work. But you get the idea, right? How that would work, how you would blind nail with that. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Now the question comes up from. If you are a master carpenter back in the day, do you need to have this guide, or would you not have the ability as a master carpenter to freehand the same thing, which we'll try here like that, and do your blind nail as well? You can kind of see, yeah, and. Actually, the one that I did freehand, look how much, see how much thicker it is? It's still thin enough where it will bend, but it's a little bit more substantial. It would probably be more durable. I probably didn't have that set deep enough. If I were to do it again, I'd set it a tiny, tiny bit deeper. But isn't that cool? What a technique. Clever what those old carpenters came up with. That was what really was the difference between a master carpenter and an apprentice or a new carpenter was the master carpenter knows how to hide mistakes. That's a true to this day. The older we get, the better we are at hiding things. We start to get a little overweight and we can hide it with clothing, or we have some physical defects that bother us. We can hide it with cosmetics. It seems like that's what we're really good at, is hiding things, isn't it? But I thought that was that's pretty cool. I could see where that would definitely be a technique, and if done with care, done right, no one would ever know that it was there. The Stanley 96 chisel gauge. Isn't that neat? That's very, very special. That has, just brings me tremendous joy. Thank you so much, Ken, for your generosity and for sending this to me. I don't know where you found it, where you got it, but it will be treasured. It will absolutely be treasured. That's really special to me. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the thumbs up if you enjoy these videos. And I guess that's it. We'll see you guys on the next one. So many of you have written in the comments that you really enjoy the end sequences or my take on different things or topics or anything that suits my fancy to speak about. And I was thinking on that, like, what do I want to talk about this afternoon? And then I was editing the video and I was thinking how I was referring to cosmetics and then cosmos. You know, cosmos stands for chaos, and cosmetics comes from that. It is making order out of chaos. If you're like me and sometimes you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, you indeed look at chaos, and cosmetic is just the process of bringing chaos into order. That reminded me, of cosmetics. I'll tell you a quick story. We used to attend this church, and they were very conservative, and they were very much against wearing jewelry and cosmetics. And I don't have a problem with that, because I think women look more beautiful, not made up or painted, too overly made up. I think that the natural look is much nicer. That's what attracts me to Mrs. W so much. And so this church, they were like-minded in that. And I remember a woman came in that was off the street, had no background in Christianity. I don't know if she'd ever been to a church before, and she was wearing a fair amount of makeup. And a couple of the older women, the old saints that have been there forever, started making an issue of this, and literally making her uncomfortable. And I'll tell you what, there's a few things in life that I have zero patience for, and that's one of them. A self-righteous person is to me I can't take it. I have physically confronted, in public confronted people who have done this to new people coming into a church. I think that is one of the most grievous sins. One of the worst things that someone could commit is by judging others by your standard. You know, the thing that gets my goat on that is that we're all at different levels. I imagine the journey to God as a ladder. Some people are on the bottom rung, and some people may be in the middle, and some on the top. And if you do find yourself on the top rung, don't judge someone on the bottom rung by your standards. That's a horrible thing to do. That person on the bottom rung is on the ladder just like you are. And just because you're on a rung above them doesn't mean that you're any better. You're all on a path. You're all on a journey. You're all trying to get to the same place. Remember that. Remember that if when you're looking at people, and this is just as, I'm not preaching to you guys. This is just as much for me as it is for you, as a reminder that when we see other people that may not meet our so-called Christian standards, you keep your mouth shut. You worry about your own things. You worry about your own relationship, and you be kind, and you offer help. And if God lays it upon their heart to raise them up to your level, then that's His business, and that's their business, and it's none of yours. So, man, I didn't know that this was going to turn into a rant. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.